Once upon a time, there reigned over Persia a sultan named Khosruska, who from his youth had been fond of walking in disguise through the streets of his capital, accompanied by his Grand Vizier. One evening, as they passed down a quiet street, they heard women's voices in animated conversation. Peeping through a crack in a door, the Sultan saw three sisters sitting together in a large hall, talking earnestly. From the words that reached his ears, he gathered that each was declaring what sort of husband she wished to marry. The eldest spoke first.
I ask nothing better than to have the Sultan's baker for a husband. Think of being able to eat as much as one wanted of that delicious bread that is baked for His Highness alone.
Then the second sister replied,
I should be quite content with the Sultan's head cook. What delicate stews I should feast upon. And I am certain the Sultan's bread is used throughout the palace, so I should have that as well. You see, sister, my taste is as good as yours.
Now it was the turn of the youngest sister, who was far more beautiful than the other two and possessed greater sense besides.
As for me, I should take a higher flight. If we are to wish for husbands, nothing less than the Sultan himself will do for me.
The Sultan was greatly amused by this conversation and resolved to gratify their wishes. Turning to his Grand Vizier, he commanded him to note the house well and bring the three sisters before him the following morning. The Grand Vizier fulfilled his commission, and the next day the three sisters were presented to the Sultan. When they had bowed before him, the Sultan asked abruptly,
Tell me, do you remember what you wished for last night when you were making merry? Fear nothing, but answer me the truth.
These unexpected words threw the sisters into confusion. Their eyes fell, and the blushes of the youngest made a deep impression on the Sultan's heart. All three remained silent until he continued.
Do not be afraid. I have no intention of causing you pain. I know the wishes each of you formed. You, who desired to have me for a husband, shall be satisfied this very day. And you shall be married at the same moment to my baker and to my chief cook.
When the Sultan finished speaking, the youngest sister threw herself at his feet.
Sire, since you know my foolish words, believe I pray you that they were only said in jest. I am unworthy of the honor you propose.
But the Sultan would hear no excuses. The three weddings were celebrated that same day, though with great difference in magnificence. The youngest sister's marriage to the Sultan was marked by all the splendor customary for the Shah of Persia, while the ceremonies for the baker and cook were suitable only to their humble stations. This natural difference was highly displeasing to the elder sisters, who fell into a passion of jealousy. The first time they had opportunity to speak privately at the public baths, they did not conceal their feelings.
Can you understand what the Sultan saw in that little creature?
He must be quite blind. It grieves me that he should have selected such a wretched girl. However, I will be revenged on her somehow, and I beg you to help me in mortifying her.
The two sisters met constantly to plot their revenge, though outwardly they pretended friendship toward the Sultana, who in turn treated them with kindness. For a long time no scheme occurred to them, but at length the expected birth of an heir gave them the chance for which they had hoped. They obtained the Sultan's permission to attend their sister during her confinement and never left her side. When a beautiful little prince was born, radiant as the sun, they laid him in his cradle and carried it down to a canal that passed through the palace grounds, leaving the infant to his fate. Then they informed the Sultan that instead of the son he had desired, the Sultana had given birth to a puppy. At this dreadful news, the Sultan was overcome with rage and grief, and only the intervention of the Grand Vizier saved the Sultana from his wrath. Meanwhile, the cradle floated peacefully along the canal until it reached the outskirts of the royal gardens, where it was perceived by the intendant of the gardens, one of the highest officials in the kingdom.
Go and fetch that cradle.
The gardener obeyed, and soon placed the cradle in the intendant's hands. The official was astonished to find it contained a baby of extraordinary beauty. Having no children himself, though long married, he at once resolved to adopt the child as his own. He set upon returning home to his wife.
My wife, heaven has denied us children, but here is one sent in their place. Send for a nurse, and I will publicly recognize him as my son.
His wife accepted the baby with joy, and though the intendant saw clearly that the child must have come from the palace, he did not think it his business to inquire further. He named the boy Bahman after an ancient king of Persia. The following year, another prince was born to the Sultana. Again, the wicked sisters carried the cradle to the canal. And again the intendant, walking by the waterway, discovered the child and brought him home to raise as his second son. This prince he named Perviz. The Sultan's fury grew greater still, but when the same strange event occurred a third year, this time with a princess of surpassing beauty, his patience broke entirely. He commanded that the Sultana be executed. But the Sultana was much beloved at court, and the Grand Vizier, along with all the courtiers, threw themselves at the Sultan's feet, imploring mercy.
Let her live and banish her from your presence. That will be punishment enough.
The Sultan's first passion spent, he agreed.
Let her live then, but on one condition. Let a box be built at the door of the great mosque, with a window always open. There she shall sit in coarse clothes, and every Muslim who enters must spit in her face. Anyone who refuses shall suffer the same punishment himself.
The Grand Vizier saw it was useless to argue further. The box was built, and the poor Sultana sat within it, enduring this daily humiliation. Yet she bore herself with such dignity and meekness that before long she had won the sympathy of the best among the people. The third child, a princess, was likewise found by the intendant and raised with her brothers. He named her Parizade, meaning child of the genii. The intendant brought up all three children with the greatest care and tenderness. As they grew, their beauty, grace, and noble bearing became more marked, and their manners had all the ease proper to people of high birth. He appointed tutors to teach the princes reading and writing, and when Princess Parizade showed herself eager to learn alongside her brothers, he consented. Before long she knew as much as they did, and from that time all their studies were done together. They had the best masters for the arts, poetry, history, and sciences, and every subject seemed easy to them. The princess had a passion for music and could sing and play all manner of instruments. She could also ride and drive as well as her brothers, shoot with bow and arrow, and throw a javelin with equal skill, sometimes even better. To allow these accomplishments to flourish, the intendant purchased a splendid country house a few miles from the capital, surrounded by an immense park which he filled with wild beasts so the young people might hunt at their pleasure. When all was ready, the intendant asked the Sultan's permission to resign his post, citing his age and long service. The Sultan granted this graciously, and the family retired to their country estate. 5 or 6 months passed in peaceful contentment when death attacked the intendant so suddenly that he had no time to reveal the secret of their birth to his foster children. As his wife had long been dead, it seemed the princes and princess would never know they had been born to a higher station. Their sorrow was deep, and they lived quietly on in their home without any desire for court life. One day the princes went out to hunt while their sister remained at home. During their absence, an old Muslim devotee appeared at the door and asked leave to enter for the hour of prayer. Princess Parizade immediately sent orders that the woman be taken to the private oratory and, after prayers, shown the house and gardens before being brought to her. The old woman admired everything she saw with the eye of a connoisseur, and when at last she was led before the princess, who sat in a room surpassing all the rest in splendor, she was invited to sit beside her on the sofa. The princess spoke.
My good woman, I am delighted to speak with so holy a person.
The old woman protested such honor, but the princess insisted and ordered refreshments. While her guest ate, the princess asked about her way of life and pious practices, then inquired what she thought of the house.
Madam, one must be hard to please to find fault. It is beautiful, comfortable, and well ordered, and the garden is lovely beyond measure. But since you ask, I must confess it lacks 3 things to make it absolutely perfect.
And what can they be? Tell me, and I will obtain them at once.
The 3 things, madam, are first, the talking bird, whose voice draws all other singing birds to join in chorus. Second, the singing tree, where every leaf sings a song that is never silent. And lastly, the golden water, of which you need pour only a single drop into a basin for it to shoot up into a fountain 20 feet high, which will never be exhausted nor will the basin ever overflow.
How can I thank you for telling me of such treasures? But please, where can I find them?
Madam, I would ill repay your hospitality if I refused to answer. All 3 are found in one place, on the borders of this kingdom toward India. Your messenger need only follow the road passing your house for 20 days, and at the end, ask the first person he meets for the talking bird, the singing tree, and the golden water.
With that, she rose and departed so abruptly that the princess did not realize until too late that the directions were incomplete. The princess was still thinking of this when her brothers returned from the hunt.
What is the matter, sister?
Asked Prince Bahman.
Why so grave? Are you ill, or has something happened?
Princess Parizade raised her eyes and said there was nothing wrong.
But there must be something for you to have changed during our short absence. Hide nothing from us, unless you wish to end the confidence we have always shared.
Moved by his words, the princess explained.
You have always thought our father's house perfect, but today I learned that 3 things are lacking: the talking bird, the singing tree, and the golden water.
She described their wondrous properties and continued.
A Muslim devotee told me this and where they might be found. Perhaps you think the house beautiful enough without them, but I cannot agree. I shall never be content until I have them. Please advise me whom to send on this quest.
My dear sister, that you care about this is reason enough for us to care as well. I claim, as the elder, the right to make the first attempt. Tell me where to go and what to do.
Prince Perviz objected that as head of the family, Bahman should not expose himself to danger, but Prince Bahman would hear nothing of it and retired to make preparations. The next morning, as Prince Bahman prepared to depart, his sister cried out,
Perhaps you may never return. Give it up, I beg you, for I would rather lose the talking bird, singing tree, and golden water than have you run into danger.
My dear sister, accidents happen only to the unlucky, and I hope I am not one of them. But as all is uncertain, take this knife. Every now and then draw it out and look at it. As long as it remains bright and clean, you will know I am alive. But if the blade is spotted with blood, it will be a sign I am dead, and you may weep for me.
Prince Bahman mounted his horse and rode straight ahead for 20 days until he found himself near the Persian frontier. Under a tree by the roadside sat a hideous old man with a long white mustache and beard falling to his feet. His nails had grown to enormous length, and on his head he wore a huge hat that served as an umbrella. Recognizing this as a dervish, Prince Bahman dismounted and bowed low.
My father, may your days be long and your wishes fulfilled.
The dervish tried to reply, but his mustache was so thick his words were unintelligible. Perceiving the problem, the prince took scissors from his saddlebags and requested permission to trim the mustache. The dervish consented, and when several inches of hair and beard had been pruned, the prince assured him he looked much younger. The dervish smiled and thanked him.
Let me show my gratitude by telling you what I can do for you.
Gentle dervish, I come from far and seek the talking bird, the singing tree, and the golden water. I know they are somewhere in these parts, but am ignorant of the exact spot. Tell me, I pray, if you can.
As he spoke, the prince observed a change in the dervish's countenance, who waited before replying.
My lord, I know the road you ask for, but your kindness and the friendship I have conceived for you make me reluctant to point it out.
Why not? What danger can there be?
The very greatest danger. Other men, as brave as you have passed this way and asked that question. I tried to turn them from their purpose, but not one would listen, and not one came back. Be warned and seek to go no further.
I am grateful for your concern, but I cannot follow your advice. What dangers exist that courage and a good sword cannot meet?
And if your enemies are invisible?
Nothing will make me give it up. For the last time, tell me where I must go.
Seeing the prince's mind was made up, the dervish drew a ball from his bag and held it out with a sigh.
Take this. When you have mounted, throw it before you. It will roll on until it reaches the foot of a mountain where it will stop. Dismount there and throw the bridle on your horse's neck without fear of his straying. On each side you will see vast heaps of black stones and hear insulting voices. But pay no heed, and above all, never turn your head. If you do, you will instantly become a black stone like the rest. Those stones are men like yourself who failed on this same quest. If you reach the mountain's top, you will find the talking bird in a splendid cage. Ask him where to seek the singing tree and golden water. That is all. You know what to do and what to avoid. If you are wise, you will think no more of it and return home.
The prince smiled, thanked the dervish, sprang on his horse, and threw the ball before him. The ball rolled so fast that Prince Bahman had difficulty keeping pace. When it reached the mountain's foot and stopped, the prince dismounted and flung the bridle on his horse's neck. He looked around at the black stones covering the mountainside, then began resolutely to climb. He had gone barely 4 steps when voices surrounded him, though no creature was in sight.
Who is this fool? Stop him! Kill him! Help! Robbers! Murderers! Let him alone. He is such a beautiful young man, surely the bird and cage were kept for him.
At first, Prince Bahman ignored the clamor and pressed forward. But instead of silencing the voices, this only provoked them more. They arose with redoubled fury from front and behind. After some time, he grew bewildered, his knees trembled, and finding himself about to fall, he forgot the dervish's warning entirely. He turned to flee down the mountain, and in one moment became a black stone. Princess Parizade and Prince Perviz consulted the magic knife many times each day. It had remained bright and spotless, but at the fatal hour when Prince Bahman turned to stone, large drops of blood appeared on the blade.
Ah, my beloved brother,
Cried the princess in horror, throwing down the knife.
I shall never see you again, and it is I who killed you. Fool that I was to listen to that woman's voice.
Prince Perviz's grief matched his sister's, but he did not waste time on lamentations.
My sister, why think the old woman deceived you? No, our brother must have met his death through accident or lack of caution. Tomorrow I will start on the same quest.
The princess entreated him to abandon the project, terrified of losing her only remaining brother, but he remained firm. Before setting out, he gave her a chaplet of 100 pearls.
When I am absent, tell this over daily for me. But if you find the beads stick so they will not slip one after another, you will know my brother's fate has befallen me.
He departed, and on the 20th day met the dervish in the same spot as Prince Bahman had. He questioned him about the talking bird, singing tree, and golden water. The dervish tried to dissuade him, and even told him that a few weeks earlier, a young man bearing strong resemblance to him had passed that way, but never returned.
That holy dervish was my elder brother, now dead, though how he died I cannot say.
He is changed into a black stone, like all the rest who went on the same errand. You will become one too if you are not more careful in following my directions.
He gave the prince a ball and the same warnings, emphasizing that he must take no heed of the voices that would pursue him up the mountain. When Prince Perviz reached the mountain's foot, he dismounted and paused to recall the dervish's instructions. He strode boldly on, but had scarcely gone 5 or 6 paces when a voice close to his ear exclaimed,
Stop, rash fellow, and let me punish your audacity.
This insult drove the dervish's advice from the prince's head. He drew his sword and turned to avenge himself, but before he realized no one was there, he and his horse became 2 black stones. Since Prince Perviz had ridden away, Princess Parizade had not let a morning pass without telling her beads, and at night she hung them round her neck so that if she woke she could assure herself of her brother's safety. She was moving them through her fingers the very moment Prince Perviz fell victim to his impatience, and her heart sank when the first pearl remained fixed in place. She had long decided what she would do in such a case, and the following morning, disguised as a man, Princess Parizade set out for the mountain. Accustomed to riding from childhood, she traveled as many miles daily as her brothers had, and on the 20th day arrived where the dervish sat.
Good dervish, will you allow me to rest beside you? Perhaps you can tell me if you have heard of a talking bird, a singing tree, and some golden water found somewhere near here?
She said politely. The dervish replied, for despite her manly dress, her voice betrayed her.
Madam, I shall be proud to serve you in any way I can. But may I ask the purpose of your question?
I have heard such descriptions of these 3 things that I cannot rest until I possess them.
Madam, they are far more beautiful than any description, but you seem ignorant of the difficulties that stand in your way. Give it up, I pray, and return home. Do not ask me to help you to a cruel death.
Holy Father, I come from far, and I would be in despair if I turned back without attaining my object. You speak of difficulties. Tell me what they are so I may know if I can overcome them.
The dervish repeated his tale, dwelling firmly on the clamor of voices, the black stones that were once living men, and the difficulties of climbing the mountain. He emphasized that the chief means of success was never to look behind until you had the cage in your grasp.
As far as I can see, the key is not to mind the voices until you reach the cage, and then never look behind. I think I have enough self-control to look straight before me. But since even the boldest men have been frightened by the voices, I will stop my ears with cotton so that no matter how much noise they make, I shall hear nothing.
Madam, out of all who have asked me the way, you are the first to suggest such a means of escaping danger. It is possible you may succeed, but the risk remains great.
I feel in my heart that I shall succeed. It only remains for you to show me the way.
Seeing it was useless to say more, the dervish gave her the ball. The first thing the princess did upon reaching the mountain was to stop her ears with cotton. Then, determining the best route, she began her ascent. Despite the cotton, some echoes of the voices reached her ears, but not enough to trouble her. though they grew louder and more insulting the higher she climbed. The princess only laughed to herself, resolving that a few rough words would not stand between her and her goal. At last she perceived the cage and the bird in the distance, whose voice joined the rest in tones of thunder.
Return! Never dare come near me.
At the sight of the bird, the princess hastened her steps, and without vexing herself at the now deafening noise, she walked straight up to the cage and seized it. Then she spoke.
Now, my bird, I have you, and I shall take good care you do not escape.
She removed the cotton from her ears, for it was needed no longer.
Brave lady, do not blame me for joining my voice to those who tried to preserve my freedom. Though confined in a cage, I was content with my lot, but if I must become a slave, I could not wish for a nobler mistress than one who has shown such constancy. From this moment I swear to serve you faithfully. Some day you will put me to the proof, for I know who you are better than you do yourself. Meanwhile, tell me what I can do, and I will obey.
Bird, let me first thank you for your goodwill, then ask where the golden water is found.
Replied the princess, filled with a joy that seemed strange when she thought the bird had cost her both brothers. The bird described the place nearby, and the princess filled a small silver flask she had brought. She returned to the cage and asked,
Bird, where shall I find the singing tree?
Behind you in that wood.
The princess wandered through the wood until the sweetest voices told her she had found what she sought. But the tree was tall and strong, hopeless to uproot.
You need not do that,
said the bird when she returned.
Break off a twig and plant it in your garden. It will take root and grow into a magnificent tree.
When Princess Parizade held all three wonders, she said to the bird,
All this is not enough. It was owing to you that my brothers became black stones. I cannot tell them from the mass of others, but you must know and point them out to me, for I wish to carry them away.
For some reason these words seemed to displease the bird, and he did not answer. The princess waited, then continued in severe tones.
Have you forgotten you said you are my slave to do my bidding and that your life is in my power?
No, I have not forgotten, but what you ask is very difficult. However, I will do my best. If you look around, you will see a pitcher standing near. Take it, and as you go down the mountain, scatter a little of the water it contains over every black stone, and you will soon find your brothers.
Princess Parizade took the pitcher and, carrying the cage, twig, and flask besides, returned down the mountainside. At every black stone she stopped and sprinkled water, and as the water touched each stone, it instantly became a man. When she suddenly saw her brothers before her, her delight was mixed with astonishment.
Why, what are you doing here?
She cried.
We have been asleep.
Yes, but without me your sleep would probably have lasted until the day of judgment. Have you forgotten you came here in search of the talking bird, the singing tree, and the golden water? Look around and see if there is one black stone left. These gentlemen, yourselves, and all your horses were changed into stones. I delivered you by sprinkling you with water from this pitcher. As I could not return home without you, even though I had gained the prizes on which I had set my heart, I forced the talking bird to tell me how to break the spell.
On hearing these words, Prince Bahman and Prince Perviz understood all they owed their sister. The knights standing by declared themselves her slaves, ready to carry out her wishes. But the princess, while thanking them for their politeness, explained she wished for no company but that of her brothers, and that the rest were free to go where they would. The princess mounted her horse and, declining to let even Prince Bahman carry the cage with the talking bird, entrusted him with the branch of the singing tree, while Prince Perviz took care of the flask containing the golden water. They rode away, followed by the knights and gentlemen who begged to escort them. It had been their intention to stop and tell their adventures to the dervish, but they found to their sorrow that he was dead, whether from old age or from feeling his task was done, they never knew. As they continued their journey, their numbers grew daily smaller as the knights turned off to their own homes. Only the brothers and sister finally drew up at the gate of their palace. The princess carried the cage straight into the garden. As soon as the bird began to sing, nightingales, larks, thrushes, finches, and all manner of birds mingled their voices in chorus. The branch she planted in a corner near the house, and in a few days it had grown into a great tree. As for the golden water, it was poured into a marble basin specially prepared, where it swelled and bubbled and shot up into a fountain 20 feet high. The fame of these wonders soon spread abroad, and people came from far and near to see and admire. After a few days, Prince Bahman and Prince Perviz fell back into their ordinary way of life and passed most of their time hunting. One day the Sultan of Persia was also hunting in the same direction. Not wishing to interfere with his sport, the young men prepared to retire upon hearing the hunt approach, but as fortune would have it, they turned into the very path the Sultan was coming down. They dismounted and prostrated themselves, but the Sultan was curious to see their faces and commanded them to rise. The princes stood respectfully but at their ease, and the Sultan looked at them for some moments without speaking. Then he asked who they were and where they lived.
Sire, we are sons of your highness's late intendant of the gardens, and we live in a house he built shortly before his death, waiting until an occasion offers to serve your highness.
You seem fond of hunting.
Sire, it is our usual exercise, and one that should be neglected by no man who expects to bear arms and comply with the ancient customs of the kingdom.
The Sultan was delighted with this answer and said at once,
In that case I shall take great pleasure in watching you. Come, choose what beasts you would like to hunt.
The princes jumped on their horses and followed the Sultan at a little distance. Before long, many wild animals appeared at once. Prince Bahman started to give chase to a lion, while Prince Perviz pursued a bear. Both used their javelins with such skill that the moment they came within striking range, the lion and bear fell, pierced through. Then Prince Perviz pursued a lion and Prince Bahman a bear, and within minutes they too lay dead. As they prepared for a third assault, the Sultan interfered. Sending an official to summon them, he said, smiling,
If I let you go on, there will soon be no beasts left to hunt. Besides, your courage and manners have so won my heart that I will not have you expose yourselves to further danger. I am convinced that someday I shall find you useful as well as agreeable.
He then invited them warmly to stay with him altogether, but with many thanks for the honor, they begged to be excused and to be allowed to remain at home. The Sultan, unaccustomed to having his offers rejected, inquired their reasons. Prince Bahman explained that they did not wish to leave their sister and were accustomed to doing nothing without consulting all three together.
Ask her advice then, and tomorrow come hunting with me and give me your answer.
The next morning, when they met the Sultan in the same place, he inquired what advice their sister had given. The young men looked at each other and blushed. At last Prince Bahman said,
Sire, we must throw ourselves on your highness's mercy. Neither my brother nor I remembered anything about it.
Then be sure you do not forget today, and bring me back your reply tomorrow.
When the same thing happened a second time, they feared the Sultan might be angry with them for their carelessness. But he took it in good part and, drawing 3 little golden balls from his purse, held them out to Prince Bahman.
Put these in your belt, and you will not forget a third time, for when you remove your girdle tonight, the noise they make in falling will remind you of my wishes.
It happened as the Sultan foretold. The two brothers appeared in their sister's apartments just as she was stepping into bed and told their tale. Princess Parizade was much disturbed at the news and did not conceal her feelings.
Your meeting with the Sultan is very honorable and will likely be of service to you, but it places me in an awkward position. It is on my account, I know, that you have resisted the Sultan's wishes, and I am grateful. But kings do not like to have their offers refused, and in time he would bear a grudge against you, which would make me very unhappy. Consult the talking bird, who is wise and far-seeing, and let me hear what he says.
The bird was sent for, and the case laid before him.
The princes must on no account refuse the Sultan's proposal, and they must even invite him to come and see your house.
But, bird, you know how dearly we love each other. Will not all this spoil our friendship?
Not at all. It will make it all the closer.
Then the Sultan will have to see me.
The bird answered that it was necessary he should see her, and everything would turn out for the best. The following morning, when the Sultan inquired if they had spoken to their sister and what advice she had given, Prince Bahman replied that they were ready to agree to His Highness's wishes, and that their sister had reproved them for their hesitation. The Sultan received their excuses with great kindness and told them he was sure they would be faithful to him. He kept them by his side for the rest of the day, to the vexation of the Grand Vizier and the rest of the court. When the procession entered the gates of the capital, the eyes of the people crowding the streets were fixed on the two young strangers.
Oh, if only the Sultan had sons like that. They look so distinguished and are about the age his sons would have been.
The Sultan commanded that splendid apartments be prepared for the brothers, and even insisted they sit at table with him. During dinner, he led the conversation to various subjects, history, science, and the arts, and whatever topic they discussed, he found the young men's views always worth hearing. If they were my own sons, he said to himself, they could not be better educated. At evening's end, the princes prostrated themselves and asked leave to return home. Then, encouraged by the Sultan's gracious farewell, Prince Bahman spoke.
Sire, may we dare to ask whether you would do us and our sister the honor of resting for a few minutes at our house the first time the hunt passes that way?
With the utmost pleasure, and as I am impatient to see the sister of such accomplished young men, you may expect me the day after tomorrow.
The princess, anxious to entertain the Sultan fittingly but having no experience in court customs, ran to the talking bird and begged his advice on what dishes should be served.
My dear mistress, your cooks are very good and you can safely leave all to them, except that you must be careful to have a dish of cucumbers stuffed with pearl sauce served with the first course.
Cucumbers stuffed with pearls. Bird, whoever heard of such a dish? The Sultan will expect a dinner he can eat, not one he can only admire. Besides, if I were to use all the pearls I possess, they would not be half enough.
Mistress, do what I tell you and nothing but good will come of it. As to the pearls, if you go at dawn tomorrow and dig at the foot of the first tree in the park on the right hand, you will find as many as you want.
The princess had faith in the bird, and taking the gardener with her early next morning, she followed his directions carefully. After digging for some time, they came upon a golden box fastened with little clasps. These were easily undone, and the box was found full of pearls, not very large ones, but well-shaped and of good color. Leaving the gardener to fill up the hole under the tree, the princess took the box and returned to the house. The two princes, seeing her go out, had wondered what could make her rise so early. Full of curiosity, they got up and dressed, meeting their sister as she returned with the box under her arm.
What have you been doing? Did the gardener tell you he had found treasure?
On the contrary, it is I who have found one.
Opening the box, she showed her astonished brothers the pearls inside. Then, on the way back to the palace, she told them of her consultation with the bird and the advice it had given. All three tried to guess the meaning of the singular counsel, but were forced at last to admit the explanation was beyond them, and they must be content to obey blindly. The first thing the princess did upon entering the palace was to send for the head cook and order the repast for the sultan. When she had finished, she suddenly added,
Besides the dishes I have mentioned, there is one you must prepare expressly for the Sultan, and no one must touch it but yourself. It consists of a stuffed cucumber, and the stuffing is to be made of these pearls.
The head cook, who had never in all his experience heard of such a dish, stepped back in amazement.
You think I am mad, but I know quite well what I am doing. Go and do your best, and take the pearls with you.
The next morning the princes started for the forest and were soon joined by the sultan. The hunt continued until midday, when the heat became so great they were obliged to stop. Then, as arranged, they turned their horses' heads toward the palace, and while Prince Bahman remained by the sultan's side, Prince Perviz rode ahead to warn his sister of their approach. The moment the sultan entered the courtyard, the princess flung herself at his feet. But he bent and raised her, gazing at her for some time, struck with her grace and beauty, and also with an indefinable air of courts that seemed to hang about this country girl. They are all worthy of one another, he said to himself, and I am not surprised they think so much of her opinions. I must know more of them. By this time the princess had recovered from her first embarrassment and made her speech of welcome.
This is only a simple country house, sire, suitable to people like ourselves who live a quiet life. It cannot compare with great city mansions, much less with the smallest of the Sultan's palaces.
I cannot quite agree with you. Even the little I have seen I admire greatly, and I will reserve my judgment until you have shown me the whole.
The princess led the way from room to room, and the sultan examined everything carefully. Then he spoke.
Do you call this a simple country house? If every country house were like this, the towns would soon be deserted. I am no longer astonished you do not wish to leave it. Let us go into the gardens, which I am sure are no less beautiful.
A small door opened straight into the garden, and the first object that met the sultan's eyes was the golden water.
What lovely colored water! Where is the spring, and how do you make the fountain rise so high? I do not believe there is anything like it in the world.
He went forward to examine it, and when he had satisfied his curiosity, the princess conducted him toward the singing tree. As they drew near, the sultan was startled by strange voices but could see nothing. He asked,
Where have you hidden your musicians? Are they up in the air or under the earth? Surely the owners of such charming voices ought not to conceal themselves.
Sire, the voices all come from the tree straight before us. If you will deign to advance a few steps, you will see they become clearer.
The sultan did as he was told, and was so wrapped in delight at what he heard that he stood some time in silence. At last he said,
Tell me, I pray you, how this marvelous tree came into your garden. It must have been brought from a great distance, or else, fond as I am of curiosities, I could not have missed hearing of it. What is its name?
The only name it has, sire, is the singing tree, and it is not native to this country. Its history is mixed up with those of the golden water and the talking bird, which you have not yet seen. If your highness wishes, I will tell you the whole story when you have recovered from your fatigue.
Indeed, madam, you show me so many wonders that it is impossible to feel fatigue. Let us go once more and look at the golden water, and then I am dying to see the talking bird.
The sultan could hardly tear himself from the golden water, which puzzled him more and more. He observed,
You say that this water does not come from any spring, nor is it brought by pipes. All I understand is that neither it nor the singing tree is native to this country.
It is as you say, sire, and if you examine the basin, you will see it is all in one piece, so the water could not have been brought through it. What is more astonishing is that I only emptied a small flaskful into the basin, and it increased to the quantity you now see.
Well, I will look at it no more today. Take me to the talking bird.
On approaching the house, the Sultan noticed a vast quantity of birds whose voices filled the air, and he inquired why they were so much more numerous here than in any other part of the garden.
Do you see that cage hanging in one of the saloon windows? That is the talking bird, whose voice you can hear above them all, even above the nightingale. The birds crowd to this spot to add their songs to his.
The Sultan stepped through the window, but the bird took no notice, continuing his song. The princess addressed the bird.
My slave, this is the Sultan. Make him a pretty speech.
The bird stopped singing at once, and all the other birds stopped too.
The Sultan is welcome. I wish him long life and all prosperity.
I thank you, good bird, and I am enchanted to see in you the Sultan and King of the birds.
The Sultan seated himself before the repast spread at a table near the window. The Sultan, noticing that his favorite dish of cucumber was placed before him, proceeded to help himself and was amazed to find the stuffing was of pearls.
A novelty indeed. But I do not understand the reason for it. One cannot eat pearls.
Replied the bird before either the princes or princess could speak.
Sire, surely your highness cannot be so surprised at beholding a cucumber stuffed with pearls when you believed without any difficulty that the sultana had presented you, instead of children, with a dog, a cat, and a log of wood.
I believed it, because the women attending on her told me so.
The women, sire, were the sisters of the sultana, devoured with jealousy at the honor you had done her, and in order to revenge themselves, they invented this story. Have them examined, and they will confess their crime. These are your children, who were saved from death by the intendant of your gardens and brought up by him as if they were his own.
Like a flash, the truth came to the Sultan's mind.
Bird, my heart tells me what you say is true. My children, let me embrace you and embrace each other, not only as brothers and sister, but as having in you the blood royal of Persia, which could flow in no nobler veins.
When the first moments of emotion were over, the Sultan hastened to finish his repast, and then turning to his children, he exclaimed,
Today you have made acquaintance with your father. Tomorrow I will bring you the Sultana, your mother. Be ready to receive her.
The Sultan mounted his horse and rode quickly back to the capital. Without delay, he sent for the Grand Vizier and ordered him to seize and question the Sultana's sisters that very day. This was done. They were confronted with each other, proved guilty, and executed in less than an hour. But the Sultan did not wait to hear his orders had been carried out before going on foot, followed by his whole court, to the door of the great mosque. Drawing the Sultana with his own hand out of the narrow prison where she had spent so many years, he cried, embracing her with tears in his eyes,
Madam, I have come to ask your pardon for the injustice I have done you and to repair it as far as I may. I have already begun by punishing the authors of this abominable crime, and I hope you will forgive me when I introduce you to our children, who are the most charming and accomplished creatures in the whole world. Come with me and take back your position and all the honor due to you.
This speech was delivered in the presence of a vast multitude who had gathered from all parts on the first hint of what was happening, and the news passed from mouth to mouth in seconds. Early the next day, the Sultan and Sultana, dressed in robes of state and followed by all the court, set out for the country house of their children. Here the Sultan presented them to the Sultana one by one, and for some time there was nothing but embraces, tears, and tender words. Then they ate of the magnificent dinner prepared for them, and afterward they went into the garden where the Sultan pointed out to his wife the golden water and the singing tree. As to the talking bird, she had already made acquaintance with him. In the evening, they rode together back to the capital, the princes on each side of their father, and the princess with her mother. Long before they reached the gates, the way was lined with people, and the air filled with shouts of welcome mingled with the songs of the talking bird sitting in its cage on the princess's lap, and of the birds who followed it. And in this manner they came back to their father's palace, where they lived in happiness for the rest of their days.